Good morning, Year 7. What we're looking at today for the second bit of reading is the Reformation. Now, the Reformation is one of the most important events in world history. It's a moment that shapes Europe, and it's a moment that shapes Britain and British history, and even to this day has a sort of a legacy that we can sort of see. Okay, so this lesson today, this bit that we're going to talk about today, is so important. Lots of the stuff we're going to talk about next year come back to this Reformation, come back to this divide, come back to this division. Okay, so make sure we're paying attention. If you're not sure about something, write it down. We can answer these questions when we come back together. At the start of the 16th century, the Roman Catholic Church was the single most powerful organisation in Western Europe. So Western Europe is this bit here. Okay, maybe we'll take that bit in as well. Okay, so that yellow line is kind of Western Europe. It might go a little bit further across. Some might argue maybe this red line is a slightly better line. Okay, but the Catholic Church is the most powerful organisation in Western Europe. From the forests of Poland in the east to the coast of Portugal, so Poland's over here, Portugal is here. The Catholic, this one religion held sway over millions of lives. At the head of the Catholic Church was the Pope, who lived in Rome and controlled a large swathe of central Italy. Catholics believed that the Pope was God's representative on earth, and he held enormous power. During the medieval period, popes called for crusades, started wars that could make or break European royal families. However, by 1500, the Roman Catholic Church had developed a reputation for corruption. So corruption is when something goes wrong. Corruption is the idea of corruption. A good example is if you can pay off a police officer if you get into trouble. You know, it's wrong. So corruption is it's damaged. It doesn't work properly. And some people are starting to say the Catholic Church isn't working properly. It's been spoiled by greed and being fought by people who are taking money. The papacy had been taken over by wealthy, power-hungry popes who paid little attention to religion. Perhaps the most infamous was Pope Alexander VI, maybe it's here, who was from a powerful Spanish family known as the Borgia. He threw all-night parties, stole money from the church, and had as many as 10 children with his mistresses, even though the Pope, as a Catholic clergyman, was supposed to remain celibate. So celibate means he's supposed to remain without a wife, okay, or a girlfriend. But he's somehow managed to father at least 10 children. So we talked about that corruption before, that hypocrisy of rules for him and then rules for other people. And this is making people start to think, is this right? In order to raise money, the Catholic Church sold indulgences. An indulgence was a certificate personally signed by the Pope, which a Christian could buy to gain forgiveness for their sins. You could even buy indulgences for dead relatives to shorten their time in purgatory. So the church is selling a way into heaven almost. So the rich people can do what they want, but then they can buy an indulgence and be forgiven. And this doesn't sit well with everybody. There was also a lively market for holy relics. A relic is a sort of an ancient or a sacred object, normally said to be body parts of saints or Jesus Christ. These relics were rarely genuine. Churches would buy and sell the fingernail of Jesus Christ, part of the tree from the Garden of Eden, or a vial of the Virgin Mary's breast milk. Pilgrims would pay church considerable amounts of money to see and touch these relics, believing they had divine powers. Okay, so people wanted to see these relics, but a lot of the time the relics weren't real. Okay, which creates this confusion, creates this real unease for the people. Lastly, the Catholic Church was enormously wealthy. Even holy orders of nuns and monks who were supposed to live a life of simplicity and poverty in monasteries and abbeys could be found living in luxury. The Catholic clergy wore vestments made of the finest silk and velvet, and Catholic churches were richly decorated with gold altars, wall paintings, burning incense, and stained glass windows. So this picture here shows a member of the clergy, a member of a religious man, with all the different clothing that he may have, all the different vestments that he may wear. The churches themselves looked grand and looked impressive. And this sat and went against the idea that, the church was meant to be for everybody. It kind of created this thing that the people in the church could be rich, but everyone else had to be poor. And this annoys and upsets some people. It leads to something called Protestantism. Some priests began to argue that the Catholic Church had strayed from the true word of Jesus Christ and had been turned rotten by wealth. Jesus Christ had lived a life of simplicity and preached against greed. They argued, so should the Catholic Church not follow his example. So Jesus was a very simple man and lived a simple life, whereas the church is showing all this money and all this wealth and all this gold. And some priests started to think the church isn't really representing Jesus, isn't representing what religion should be about because of the corruption. These priests attacked the Pope and the Catholic Church, giving sermons and writing short books explaining their beliefs. They were greatly aided by the newly invented printing press. So the fact that they had these ideas was one thing. The fact that the printing press came about and allowed them to share these ideas, that was a really important second thing. They could share these ideas and people could start to criticize together. Due to their protest against the authority of the Catholic Church, they were given the name Protestants. Okay, so Protestants, Catholics and Protestants. Protestantism was particularly powerful in Germany, Switzerland, Holland and Belgium, where priests such as John Calvin and Martin Luther gained large followings. They proposed a simpler form of Christianity, replacing ritual and superstition with the word of the Bible, and richly decorated church interiors with plain whitewashed walls. So what the Puritans wanted was they wanted the word of the Bible at the centre of religion, and they wanted plain whitewashed churches. They wanted the church to be about the person and God. Okay? And the way the person gets closer to God is through the study of the Bible. Okay? What they didn't want was all the ceremony, the beautifully decorated buildings. Okay? The church to be in Latin. They wanted people to be able to, and the Bible to be in Latin. They wanted people to be able to access the Bible themselves. Fundamental to Protestantism was the belief that Christians should have their own relationship with God, formed through regular reading of the Bible. However, within Roman Catholicism, the Bible could only be read in Greek, Hebrew or Latin, and all services were conducted in Latin. So in secret, the Protestants began translating the Bible into their own languages. This movement to reform Christianity spread across Europe and became known as the Reformation. So the Reformation is the idea of reforming the church, changing the church from Catholic to Protestant. And to do this, we wanted to make the Bible accessible in different languages, and we wanted to change what churches were like. Okay? Now the man whose name is associated with this is Martin Luther. Born in Germany, Martin Luther became a monk at the age of 22. In 1510 he visited Rome and was appalled by the wealth and corruption he saw there. So he travelled to Rome. He was a simple monk. And he gets to Rome, the holy place we talked about in the first slide, and he sees the greed and the wealth of some people in the church and the corruption. And this makes him really angry and he thinks this isn't what religion's about. In 1517, Luther wrote a list of arguments known as the 95 Theses, attacking church abuses, in particular selling of indulgences. Luther nailed these 95 Theses to the door of his church in Wittenberg, and this event is often said to have marked the start of the Reformation. So he writes his ideas down on a piece of paper, bangs them on the front of the church door. Okay, there's a good Horrible Histories video about this if you have a look for it. In 1522, at a meeting known as the Diet of Worms, Pope Leo X declared Luther a heretic and an outlaw. So if you're a heretic, you're not allowed to be in the church. You're dangerous. Okay, it sort of says you're going against God's word. On leaving the court, Luther was ambushed and kidnapped. However, his kidnapper was a German prince who offered Luther a hiding place at Wartburg Castle In 1525, Luther married a former nun named Katharina von Bora, who had abandoned her convent. Together they had 6 children. Luther also began to translate the Bible into German. He finished his German Bible in 1534, by which time much of Germany had converted to Protestantism. So he comes up with the ideas and the criticisms, but he then also translates the Bible to make things worse from the Catholic point of view. Okay, he wants the German people to be able to read the Bible themselves to understand Christ's words themselves, he argues. Okay, so really important there. If you're not sure about anything, go back through it. There are loads of videos on YouTube about the Reformation as well. But it's a really important moment that we need to understand because it shapes world history from this moment on. Okay, finish for this video.